dark screen. What I gotta do for that again? Hit that thing.
Yeah. Turn around. Yeah. The mics are on.
Got it?
Yeah, I didn't know.
Yeah.
What? I didn't think you did. It just looks like I'm off.
Do me a favor, little. Where that drum?
What drum?
Good job.
The djembe?
Yes.
Stairs.
It's upstairs?
It's on the stairs.
We'll be getting started. For today's discussion.
You got any more of those ciders in there? Tell them about to get started.
Yeah, I think she told him.
Okay. They? Okay.
Bear with us a moment. We are setting up. Thank you. Yeah, you can set it back there. It may have to go on top of something too. Probably like turn over one of those. Give it a little more height. Yeah.
Is that they got you connected to the periscope now, bro?
Yeah, man. Yeah. What happened? Is it? You sure? I thought that was open. Yeah, probably out there. I don't know. I'm not gonna worry about it. I know what I probably should have did that about an hour ago. Okay. So we'll be getting started up with today's discussion. You see that, right?
Could you put up the link for Periscope, Brother Judah?
You know that link? No. It's on your phone.
I have Periscope on my phone, but I cannot connect to your broadcast directly. I don't know why.
Oh, probably you have. Are you on?
What's your name?
Judah. Should be under Brother Judah.
Okay.
I'm just getting a hang of it myself.
Same here, Brother Judah.
Yeah. Yeah, we should start.
All right. The title of today's lesson will be "Which government will you choose?" Today's teaching will be Elder Judah, and Brother McGarvey will be your reader today. And we're going to start in Mark 12 with Christ reciting the Shema, Mark 12 and 28. And one of the scribes came, and having heard them reasoning together, and perceiving that he had answered them well, asked him, which is the first commandment of all? And Jesus answered him, the first of all the commandments is, Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord, and thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, and all thy soul, and all thy mind, and all thy strength. And this is the first commandment. And the second is like, namely this, thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. There is none other commandment greater than these. portion of the lesson so that he may open our understanding. In Christ Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I want to continue something we left off a few weeks ago. I said I was going to go through and do a part 2, so I didn't feel right to move on until we accomplished that. Which government will we serve? And we attempted to go through all of the different months of the year, for the most part, in which there's some sort of festival or celebration going on in the modern day society. We started with January with Janus, then went to February. We talked about, in February we dealt with Valentine's Day, and then February led into March, April, which dealt with Easter, May, so-called Mother's Day, and thus and such and thus and such. But we're going to skip ahead a little bit. We're not going to deal with the 4th of July and all of that. We deal with that in other teachings. But we're going to skip ahead to the month of October. But before we go to the month of October, I want to go to the book of Jeremiah, the 2nd chapter. Because the argument that I want to bring to the table is when we look at the legislation of the God of the Bible, that they turned into a bunch of religions, and all of his feast days and all of his festival days, they turned that into religion. It has lost its meaning, and now the people of modern day society say, well, you know, that was all for the Jews. It's no longer binding. We don't need to do that no more. And so my argument is, well, if that's the case, then if it's not necessary for me to go to church on Saturday, then why trouble me to go to your churches on Sunday? If the holy days, which we acknowledge as separated days, in which God created, if that's no longer binding because it's a burden, why isn't that the holidays of the land a burden? Seeing that suicide rates escalate during the days of during the months of November and December. High debt goes on in the turn of the year because people are in debt overspending themselves, keeping up with the holidays. And now I just don't want to just bring that to the forefront as far as the burdens on the behalf of the citizens in this country who labor to keep up with these holidays and celebrate them. You know, I was listening to one broadcast on the BBC, and they talked about how depression is high during the holidays. And their solution was, well, you know what? You know, I know a lot of things could be going on and shopping and preparing for your dinners and Thanksgiving. They said, well, what you should do is just get yourself a card. You know, just get yourself a card and read it and meditate on, do something good for yourself. A card. Go to the store and buy myself a card, which should sort of help ease the tension. That's the best that they had to say. You know, I say do away with it. That's really a burden. And you know what? What else is a contradiction? You have how many multitudes of children wake up or separated as needy? They wake up that morning, they don't have nothing. You know, think about all of the oppression and all of the sadness that accompanies the poor and oppressed children on them days. You know, while people with a little bit of money celebrating and have their little eggnog and pina colada and opening up gifts, singing songs. Think about them children waking up, ain't had enough money to do nothing. And that sorrow upon them isn't even, it shouldn't even be there. You know, it's something that has been created. But in the festivals and the holy days and the liberation days of the God of Israel, you don't have nothing like that, do you? You have a time when no one set apart because they ain't had enough. You sit up here, you have these festivals and everybody eats till they full, everybody enjoy themselves. And you remember why God doing it. But we've been fooled today. And we done chose a government that lay upon us heavy burdens, from taxation to their holidays. We done chose a government that lay upon us heavy burdens, and all of their law and their entrapments and all of their law and legislation. But you're going to say the legislation of the divine God is no longer binding. And I tell people now, and I'm more convinced of it than ever, that I know where it comes from. It comes right from the devil. That's where it comes from. There's no more debate whether we should keep the law and his statutes. No, it's really no debate. I don't really wrestle with people about it no more, because once you come to understand and that stuff starts to get down in the soul and you understand what God wants from you, you know what? At the end of the day, you know it's their burden. And you hope for them. You feel sorry for them. You know, when you first learn it, you struggle because you want the people to believe it, you know. But when you believe it for yourself and you are fully convinced in yourself, you ain't got to argue and fuss and argue and get mad at nobody about it. You hope maybe one day they'll see it. But in the meantime, we're going to look at something else too. And not only us being burdened, we're going to look at the cost that other people pay, the price that others pay to bring these gifts and these celebrations to the affluent America. Talking to, heard one cat talking about before about, if they still celebrate Christmas, that's all right. No, it's not all right. And I'm not just going to argue about it from a superstitious standpoint. We're going to talk about it from also a moral standpoint and our obligation to brothers and sisters who is all over this world being oppressed to bring all of these goods and materials and commodities to America so they can enjoy themselves. But Jeremiah chapter 2, the prophet teaches us something in Jeremiah chapter 2. I tell you, it's going to be a big price to pay. A big price to pay. In that day, the master told them, many shall say, Lord, Lord, have we not prophesied and done many wonderful works? It's going to be a letdown for many people in that day. Jeremiah 2 and verse 11. We need to take heed to this one.
Jeremiah chapter 2, verse 11. Hath a nation changed their gods, which are yet not gods?
Has a nation changed their superstition? Has a nation changed their ideology and government to worship their gods? Have they changed? Let's see.
But my people have changed their glory for that which doth not profit.
But the people of God have changed their glory. It's a rhetorical question. Have they changed? No, they haven't changed. And we started in January to show that the nations have not changed. The foundation of this culture in the Western Hemisphere, this foundation is built upon what? The Greeks and the Romans. All right. Isn't that what they teach us in school? The Greeks and the Romans are the foundation of the Western civilization. And they have brought the... Where did January Janus worship come from? Came from the Romans. God with two faces. Where did the celebration of Valentine's Day come from? Lupercalia. Remember that? Came from the Romans. February, March, Easter. What was going on with the early Ebionites, the early church? They arguing back and forth with the Romans on which day they should celebrate the death of the Mashiach. The Roman church prevailed. And now you have this Easter Sunday business. March, April, you got May. Where did the Mother's Day celebration come from? The Romans. The worship of the mother deity Astarte or Ashtoreth. Have a nation changed their gods, which are yet no gods? No, they have not. But they have convinced the people, especially the people of the book, to change their God. You don't know nothing about the God of the Bible. I mean, nothing. Where basic reason, you can't even apply basic reason no more when it comes down to the Bible. Well, we should keep the Sabbath day. Well, what day is Sabbath day? Well, that's Sunday. Well, the book says it's the seventh day of the week. Well, what day is the seventh day of the week? Why reason escape us? Ever since I was growing up, my grandmother used to get the Sunday paper on the first day of the week and begin the sales of the week. Ever since I know, when I went to school, Sunday starts off the first day of the week. Now, why is it now that we can't do some basic reasoning when it comes to... Now it don't matter. Every day the Sabbath. Now, where that's at? You see how this, you see where this go to? Well, what about every day being Sunday? What I got to go to church on Sunday for? Like we said before, why does preacher bother me about going to church on Sunday? Leave me alone. I'm not saved by works, right? Isn't that what you like to rehearse to me? Well, what I got to go to church on Sunday for? What you celebrating Christmas for? Because the nations have not changed their God, which are in fact no God. Speaking of the idols and the superstition. Let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 12 to learn something here. People talk about, well, you know, that's in that Old Testament. They don't even know what they're talking about with that. Anybody know what that means? You might know what the Old Testament is.
Old Covenant.
Old Covenant. That's what it's talking about. It's not talking about the books from Genesis to Malachi. The books from Genesis to Malachi is the Tanakh, or the Law and the Prophets. They talk about the Old Covenant, which is Testament. Well, what is the New Testament? Anybody know what the New Testament is? It's the New Covenant. It's not the books from Matthew to Revelation. That's not the New Testament. And how I know that? Because I read it. All you got to do is read the book of Hebrews. He'll teach you what the Testament and the Covenant is, and just do a little bit of research. Just look at a basic dictionary, you'll find out Testament and Covenant ain't interchangeable. But we've been taught to believe, man, we're under the New Covenant. We're under the New Testament. We are under the New Testament. But now they done fooled the people because they ain't read nothing. They think only books we need to read is from Matthew to Revelation. Except when you want to pay tithes. Then Malachi important and everything else important in that law when it's time to pay tithes. Right? Say it again. Uh-oh, there you go. So let's go here now, if you will, to the book of Deuteronomy.
Chapter 12.
Deuteronomy chapter 12, yes, sir. That's why I say, well, one thing, I don't care. Look, you better believe this book. And I know YouTube out there, and I know a whole bunch of other stuff out there. But I'm going to tell you something. You better get grounded in this book. Because people going to want, they don't, like I said before, I had a cat call me up about a week or so ago. It just so happened that, I was at work, so I had to go into a, tunnel. Sometimes we lose connection. I'm glad we lost connection that day. He called me up. I haven't talked to him a long time. First it started off about plumbing. And then it led off into have I heard the latest thing about cloning. I said, well, now what you done heard? Because, I probably haven't heard the latest thing about cloning. I know he was cloning some fish and stuff like that. Well, I'm going to tell you what he done heard. He done heard that the people, the celebrities you see now, a lot of them are already dead. They died in the 80s. They've been cloned. That's why they haven't even aged. Now, he's not asking me this trying to relate, well, what do you think? Isn't that ridiculous? No. He's telling me this. Like, why I'm not up on it? Man, you see what's going on? These the last days. He didn't stop there. He tell me that all of the NBA players are women. And all of I guess they got a women's basketball association. Mm-hmm. Well, they all men. Now I know he ain't read no books about that. I know he got all of that off online. You messed up. And I couldn't say nothing, like I was telling other brothers about. How can you conversate with something like that? Only thing I do is just listen to him until the phone went blank. And then, I didn't bother to call back. There's nothing to talk about with that. You convinced. That's why you need to read the Bible, though. You need to read the Bible because you start getting some information. If you don't have nothing to connect it to make sense of it, you get lost, man. And that's what it is. Like you can get you can find something on YouTube, whether it's from cloning, genetically modified stuff. Next thing you know, people running around. Well, you can't do this, you can't do that. Well, this wasn't there in the beginning. In the beginning they didn't. What were we told in the beginning? You couldn't eat meat because in the beginning no one ate meat. I said in the beginning they didn't wear clothes. Right. So you're going to argue from a standpoint of a nudist now. We should walk around with no clothes on because in the beginning no man had clothes.
That's right.
You can't argue from that standpoint. You gotta read the Bible. The Bible teaches you about the progression and the knowledge of man as he develops. It's things you do in the inception of things. And I give people an example when you're talking about when the child breastfeeds till he weans. So it's appropriate until a certain age. But then after a while, it's no longer appropriate, is it? Right. Because the progression of time, things change. This is how it is in his kingdom. It's things, you can do. The sister was told one time, well, you know what? We're not even supposed to be drinking no animal's milk. Well, where you get that from? It's in the Bible where you could drink goat's milk. It's in the Bible Abraham had milk and butter. Where you getting this stuff from? I tell you. See, you're not getting it from the Bible, and that's the problem. You got to go read the Bible. Shut YouTube down for a minute. Take your time and discipline yourself and read through the book. You know, anybody understands the discipline of time and reading? I could tell you some information that took me 10 years to learn. I could tell it to you, some of it in general, about an hour. But you can't grasp it right. But think about the discipline when you read. You can't read this whole Bible in 24 hours, can you? You got to set it down, don't you? It takes time. You know God got it like that on purpose. Well, how you know that? Because I remember my master told his disciples, he said, there's a lot of things I got to tell you. But you can't handle it right now. We're talking about time. And in America, the microwave society, everything fast, everything quick. People don't want time. They want to hurry up, show me how to do it. That's not the way to God of the Bible, right? And that's why we got to read this book to understand, or else we're going to be deceived. They got us worshiping things that we ought not to be worshiping right now. And the reason why a lot of people worshiping it, because they haven't taken their time to read the Bible. Now notice what he said in Deuteronomy chapter 12 here. This is why we got to read our book. All these prophets had it written. They were killed. You know what the prophets went through to put this stuff on paper? Probably not, because we haven't read it. They risked their lives to put this on paper. Jeremiah conveying messages while he in prison. Locked in the stocks. Said the stocks were so bad that his feet sunk down in the mire. He in jail. Almost died there. They left him there. Paul beating everything else. He writing his letters. All of these prophets being killed. And you all of a sudden now, we all think we ain't got to read it no more. But the prophet said that the day is going to come, you're not going to read it too. That's what he said. He said the pen is in vain and scribe is in vain because the people not going to read it.
Sit in the front window of the escalator.
Say it again.
Sit in the front window of the escalator.
That's right, or the back. Let them know that they holy with a bumper sticker or something, right? I've seen it. You know, that's what they buy like all the time. I remember growing up seeing that. Going in my people's house, my family house, they Bible up on Psalms 23. Pages done turned yellow right there because it's been open for years. That's sad. That's sad. Then your elders teach you you're not supposed to read the whole Bible. Anybody ever hear that in our generation? I was taught that. You're not supposed to read the whole Bible. Yeah. Well, you're not going to hear that from us. We're going to tell you. You better read this thing over and over again. Now, Deuteronomy 12. Starting at verse 1. Then you won't be confused. You're like, I'm confused. How can you choose all these different religions, all these different voices? Read it. When you get it, start at verse 1.
These are the statutes and judgments which ye shall observe to do in the land which the Lord God of thy fathers giveth thee to possess it. All the days that you live upon the earth.
Go ahead.
Ye shall utterly destroy all the places wherein the nations which ye shall possess serve their gods, upon the high mountains and upon the hills and under every green tree.
Listen, look, this land you going in to possess, I want you to observe all these laws, statutes, and judgments. Now, you could read this and it look like these laws and statutes and judgments, because we have people tell us to us as well. These laws and statutes and judgments are only required for the land of Israel. You see, that's how simple people get. And they were only commanded for the Jews. Well, how I know that these wasn't only commanded for the Jews? If you read the Torah, what does the Torah teach us? Why were the Canaanites kicked out that land? Because they didn't observe the laws and statutes and judgments. It's not just for the Jews. So now when you say, is it just for the land of Israel? Well, how we know that? How it's not just for the land of Israel? Because when we read Jeremiah 25th chapter, the prophet told the Babylonians, if I have punished Israel for all of their abominations, what make you nations think you gonna go unpunished? And they're not in the land of Israel, right? But we won't learn this stuff until we read the book. Now he's saying, first of all, he is establishing what here? A nation to bring justice and equity to the earth. And you need all of this law to bring justice and equity to the earth. Now he got a nation to fulfill the promises of Abraham to do this. Now he's telling this nation, you cannot pick up none of the legislations, none of the customs, none of the culture of the land, of the people you moving out of here. It's very important you don't do that. Do not serve none of their idols. Do not serve none of their princes and rulers. Because it's not just idols that's gods, but also princes and rulers are called gods. And I can show you that in the Bible. What else did they do? Verse 2. You read verse 2, right? Mm-hmm. Verse 3, they overthrow their altars. Go ahead.
And ye shall overthrow their altars, and break their pillars, and burn their groves with fire. And ye shall hew down the graven images of their gods, and destroy the names of them out of that place.
Destroy the names, the remembrance of those gods out that place. Is God overreacting? Is he going too far? Why didn't he just say, well, you know what, just remove them out and you know you all can coexist? That's the religion today. Everything coexists. You could be Muslim, you could be Jew, you could be Baha'i, you could be Baptist, whatever you could be. We all could just coexist. The Bible don't teach nothing like that. And history always shows ruin. And I'm talking about even when you're talking about establishing a moral or a socialist or just economy. Many nations on the path to socialism, one of the things that they had in their legislation was a tolerance of all religions. And it never worked. It never worked. Moses is doing something different. Is Moses religious? No. Moses is not religious. They try to make him religious, but Moses is not religious. I want you to get rid of all of these doctrines and teachings and remove them out of the land and destroy them. Okay? Verse 4.
Ye shall not do so unto the Lord your God.
In other words, the God of Israel shall be established. What I'm telling you to do with these deities, you shall not do this unto me. He shall be established in the land. You shall not worship me like these other deities are being worshipped. In other words, he's saying sanctify himself. He's telling the people to sanctify him. Okay? Let's skip down a little bit to verse 29. Verse 29.
Deuteronomy chapter 12, verse 29. When the Lord thy God shall cut off the nations from before thee,
go ahead,
whither thou goest to possess them, and thou succeedest them, and dwellest in their land. Take heed to thyself that thou be not snared by following them.
This is the same thing Apostle Paul was teaching in Romans. Remember he said, be not conformed to the ways of this world. Well, what do you think this will do? What do you think this will do when you wipe in the remembrance of everything of the world of the Canaanites out of the way? You're removing it all. So your children and your children's children, when they come in, it's going to be a slate where they will not be conformed to this world that's being removed by Moses and the other generals and princes who's coming in to establish his kingdom. Because being conformed by the world, it'll destroy you. There's a doctrine out here, it's called capitalism. Now, in this doctrine of capitalism, you have the prophets of capitalism, and you can find these prophets among the doctrines in the schools of the Democrats and the Republicans. Now, among them, they have their prophets, they have their seers, they have their advisors. And one of the doctrines that they have here that prevails among this doctrine of capital, whom Jesus called mammon, is competition. Dog eat dog world, only the strong survive. Competition. Will you find that in the book? Among the nation of Israel? No competition. That means you your brother's keeper. See, when you talk about you being your brother's keeper in the Torah, don't you know that eliminates the idea of competition? My success is only determined upon another's what? Failure. That is a doctrine of devils. But you know what? It prevails among the spirit of the people today. It's something wrong. I say it over and over again. I want you to understand and think on it. And think on it enough that you may find out it's not wrong. Come and let me know about it. But it's something that you can have 100 job openings, 1,000 people need a job. Them 100 people, them 1,000 people competing to get the job. They get the job and they'll walk out that interview happy. It will not even cross their mind that the people who didn't get the job is in danger of starvation. They probably can't feed their kids. They probably going to be evicted and thrown out. See, that don't come into the mind when we are indoctrinated by devils. That don't come into our mind. I was reading an account last night. In the fall of 2009, the economic fall of 2009, it was a family suicide. Man lost his job. He had 5 kids. He left a letter. He killed his wife. I believe she probably killed herself, or either he killed her. He murdered the 5 children, saying we're not going to leave our 5 children as orphans. And then he murdered himself because he lost his job and he left a letter saying how in the world could they make it now. See, it's something not right in a world like that. And the reason why we say it's something, people say, well, something wrong. Nobody knows what that something is. You know why they don't know what that something wrong is? Because they ain't read. They haven't sought out the God of the heavens so he can teach you what that something is. Now, how in the world you say something wrong? How in the world you going to fight your invisible enemy? Everybody remember G.I. Joe growing up? Knowing half the battle? You got to know who your enemy is. Other than that, if you don't know your enemy is, you could be very well undermining yourself. Ignorance is very important. What Ho Chi Minh say about capitalism? It's the mainstay. Ignorance is the mainstay of capitalism. That means it's here, and they know it's here because of ignorance. The people who sit in the ruling class want to keep you ignorant, and they fill the people up with senseless knowledge. I'm talking about knowledge that's prophetessless, if that's a word. Nothing. I sit out here, I listen to cats on the job, they conversate about stuff all day. I heard one guy come in, we get in at 7 in the morning, he talked for a good hour about nothing. Nothing. The radio playing is nothing. There's no music on that's talking about anything conscious. All of the commercials is talking about nothing. The conversation, all this knowledge they have from the basketball team to who doing what, to what car got this, and who, it's all nothing. It has no profit. Man, that is so aggravating.
Because the people knew better, they're uprising.
Because if they knew better, they'd make changes. So you're going to fill them up with something, though, right? So all of this knowledge they're giving you, you think you're smart, but you know what? At the end of the day, it's useless. The knowledge is useless. Useless knowledge. I don't want to live like that. Anybody who come up under this school or who study under this school, if you want knowledge, that's what we're going to do our best to give it to you. And we don't want it to be useless. In fact, we want you to be able to take this knowledge and build the kingdom of God, because this is the purpose of the knowledge, isn't it? So he said, look, I don't want you to serve me like they've been serving their God. Cut off the nations from before you. I want you to destroy everything in remembrance that they have of any of their doctrines in their schools and in their colleges and in their universities. Did you know they had schools, colleges, and universities in the days of Canaan? They weren't running around in deserts and caves. They had universities. I want you to destroy everything of the Canaanites. Their production, their factories. They had factories too. Did you know that? Well, stay tuned. Look, what verse you at now?
Verse 30.
Verse 30, continue.
After that they be destroyed from before thee.
After they have been destroyed from before you.
And that thou inquire not after their gods.
After I destroy them, I don't want you to inquire after their gods.
Saying, how did these nations serve their gods?
Go ahead.
Even so will I do likewise.
How do these nations serve their gods? We're going to do the same thing. So how is it then? Well, we're not celebrating Christmas because we believe in what's the Christmas deity? Man slaying a bull. What's his name again? Mithra. Well, we're not serving Mithra. Well, don't even serve the God of the Bible like they serve Mithra. You see what he's saying here? I don't even want you to put me in with it. Well, Mithra was born on December 25th, according to the Romans. They kept Sunday holy in honor of Mithra, according to the Romans. Well, where you get that from, Brother Judas? Did you make it up? No. I got it out the Encyclopedia Britannica that they've been printing for the last 100 years. Now, why are we going to associate the God of the Bible with him? So he said, look, I don't want you to even cause me to be in any kind of relation with you, God, in his superstition. Continue.
Verse 31. Thou shalt not do so unto the Lord thy God. For every abomination to the Lord,
abomination,
which he hateth, have they done unto their gods.
This is what they have done unto their gods. Every abomination he hated have they done.
For even their sons and their daughters they have burnt in the fire to their gods. What thing soever I command you, observe to do it. Thou shalt not add thereto, nor diminish from it.
Better not add or diminish. People say, well, that was terrible that they burnt their gods in the fire. Their children in the fire. You know the principle of it, right? See, people make focus on the fire. No, they burnt their children. Think of it, the principle is that their children have been killed. Why did they put their children in the fire?
Appease the gods.
To what?
Appease the gods.
Appease the gods for what? For
Economic burdens or
economic wealth, prosperity. Now, you mean to tell me that they don't kill their kids today for economic prosperity?
All the time.
All the time, don't they? And it's legal, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
You see that? See, when we talk about abortion, contraceptives and everything else that's destroying a woman's body and everything else, why, at the end of the day, do many of them kill their children? Because they can't afford them. So we're talking about the children they will sacrifice in order to have enough money to pay rent, buy food, party. The children they will sacrifice in order to follow their careers. I can't have no kids right now. They got to abort them. They got to sacrifice their child. Yeah. Yeah. We have boys up here. We have boys we take out there with, and these babies don't even get a proper burial. In fact, I hear they reusing the parts, selling them on a black market. You talking about a system like this? They don't even put them. They don't even give them a burial. They throw them in the trash cans. So they still sacrifice their babies for mammon. They sacrifice their babies for a career. I know I heard one of them say it on my own ears. Well, I already had 4. That's what she said coming out the clinic. Then we seen another one. We had our boys out there. One woman, young girl, she seen a board. She started crying. She went in there. She come out about 20 minutes later. And so we had another lady out there. She said, that was the same. That was the same. Because she's always out there, older white woman. That was the same. That was the same. And she was so happy that we came out there with them real pictures. She said, you know what? A lot of babies being killed. Now your babies. She's talking about colored folk. She said, I don't see none of y'all out here, and even the preachers, they don't really allow people to come out there like the churches. Just the Catholics may come out there.
they have the babies with them.
Well, yeah, you're right about that. You're right about that. They might be one of the ones driving up in there dropping the gal off. Yeah, that's the truth.
Probably in another city. But
Oh, yeah, take them to another city. Yeah, yeah. And so she said, they come out there with these drawings. But she understood when you see it. Some of these brothers here don't see them photos. They said, man, I couldn't look at them. That's why we put them up here. We sort of turn them around. But we want you to see what's taking place in this place. And that place, when we sit up there and did some ministry out there, man, when you don't, that's like a McDonald's. It's cars constantly going up in that thing. You don't know unless you just sit out there for a minute. Anyhow, they haven't changed the gods of prosperity. How in the world could you live in a system where you believe your child has become a price? You have to put a price tag on your child because you got to figure whether you need to kill your child and eat. Ain't nobody brought this system into question yet. It ought to be brought, shouldn't it? And you know whose job it is to bring it into question? The servants of the Almighty. We got to bring it into question. None of this, all of this pacifist type of stuff. We're going to wait till we go to heaven and Jesus going to fix it all. Somebody done lied. Somebody done lied to us. Because last thing I heard, he said, you are my eyes, you my body. He said, you're going to be my witness throughout the other parts of the world. You, the people. We want to put the ball in his lap. He go fix it. No, he said, no, we got to fix it. You know why? Because we got to prove whether we're servants. He proved it, didn't he? All the way down to the Romans took his life. Now why we think he just got to run that road and none of us got to even put our life nowhere close to danger? Isn't that something? That's what we believe. He handled it all. Praise Jesus. Thank God. Only thing we got to do is sit back, sip on some champagne, and
Glory to glory.
Glory to glory. That's what it is. They believe we're going to go from glory to glory. And that's why Jesus said in that day they're going to wake up. We've done many wonderful works in your name. I never knew you. Other parables say they're going to knock on the door. He won't even open it. He's going to talk to them through the door. And you know that's a problem with somebody talking to you through the door. That means no chance for you coming in here. You feel offended somebody talking you through the door, right? You go knock on the door, cat talking you through the door. You get the drift, don't you? Well, that's the same way as the parable said about the Lord God. And anyone who decided to slip in, he's going to have his ambassadors bound him hand and foot and get him out of here. We better learn the mannerism of the God of the Bible in which we're reading. He said, go in and destroy all the remembrance of these gods. And that is a decree to this day. Let's go to 1 Corinthians chapter 10. The people they think they got a lifesaver here, and that is Apostle Saul. Some of them think Saul was a Greek or a Roman. They get offended when we say, no, Saul was a Benjamite. He wasn't. Paul. No, he was a Roman citizen. People read that. No, Paul was a Roman citizen. But his nationality and his culture was of the clan of Benjamin. He was a Jew who was a citizen of Rome. And look what he said. He was very educated. 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 14. 1 Corinthians chapter 10. People don't want to take Moses' word for it. I tell you, Paul took Moses' word for it.
1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 14.
All right, now let's see begin to see what the Apostle Paul had to say.
Wherefore, my dearly beloved, flee from idolatry.
He said what? Walk away from it.
Flee from idolatry.
Flee from idolatry. Tolerate it a little bit because other people don't understand.
Flee from idolatry.
Flee from it. What else we got?
I speak as to wise men. Judge ye what I say.
You supposed to be wise? I want you to judge what I'm saying. Let's skip down to verse 18.
Verse 18. Behold, Israel after the flesh, are not they which eat of the sacrifices partakers of the altar?
Go ahead. In other words, Israel of the flesh, you know that even in the Torah, when you ate of the flesh of the sacrifice, you were a partaker with the altar. When you ate of the flesh of the God of Israel, you found yourself one with him. At least allegedly. What else we got?
Verse 19. What say I then?
What say I then? What am I saying?
That the idol is anything?
In other words, I'm not saying that the idol is anything. In other words, it really is nothing. But continue.
Or that which is offered in sacrifice to idols is anything?
Even though he's saying, look, I know an idol is nothing. There's really no spirit in it. But notice what the Apostle Paul or Saul going to tell us.
Verse 20. But I say.
But I tell you.
But that the things which the Gentiles sacrifice, they sacrifice to devils and not to God.
Now can you understand why Moses had that decree in Deuteronomy? I want you to destroy everything. Altars, everything. I don't want no remembrance of it. Of the nation. Because Paul is talking about, don't you know, that the Gentiles or the nations What they sacrifice to who?
To devils.
To devils.
And not to God.
Go ahead.
And I would not that you should fellowship with devils. Verse 21, you cannot drink the cup of the Lord and the cup of devils.
You can't sit up here and play both sides of the fence. You're going to have to make a choice. You can't drink the cup of the Lord and the cup of devils. Go ahead and continue.
You cannot be partakers of the Lord's table and of the table of devils.
You can't do both. Now, I'm not going to deal with Halloween today because most people talk about Halloween is bad. But did you know Halloween started off where they used to dress up like saints? They didn't always dress up like monsters and Jason and all of that stuff. They used to dress up like saints. Everybody from, you know what, since I said it, maybe you might as well read it a little bit. This is out of the New World Encyclopedia under Halloween. Read the underline for me. Now this is what they're gonna do. This is what all these people are gonna do. They're gonna sit up here and begin to pack the shelves out. You'll be seeing it coming up soon. They're gonna load the shelves up with a bunch of candy, stuff that's gonna rock the children's teeth out their head. You know, all of this dangerous stuff they're gonna put on the shelves, and they say it's all right to give it to the kids. And the more I learn, I start to realize and say, well, it's a treat. You know, I didn't know treats should be dangerous though. That's the dilemma I'm facing. Well, you're not supposed to eat too much of it, but even if I did though, you know, because too much is relative. You know, what too much for you might not be too much for me. But
I'm sorry to interrupt you. They get the candy in August.
Oh wait, they
get the candy, the shipments of candy. They get it in August.
They get it in August.
Yes, they wrap it up and they put it in the back stock, the areas that you can't see.
You're right.
You know, working at Wegmans, I see that.
Yes.
And so when they got the back to school stuff, they got their back to school push. That week after back to school is done,
yes,
they put the candy out. So that first week of September, that candy goes out.
First week is, but they get it in August. They get the candy in August.
Yes.
They already prepped.
Yep.
Then back to school. Then they're gonna start putting it in. Put the candy on the shelves in September because they already got candy. But now this is really the market for the candy. And we've been learning through this school through the years about food and behavior. And I'm learning more about food and behavior. And I'm learning more about how candy and all of these adverse chemicals and stuff inside of this so-called stuff we call food is really hurting us in more ways than what we believe. What we consume and what we put in our bodies, this affects the mind and the brain. And I remember reading about Barbara Stitt's book when she was doing a study on food and behavior. And I started thinking to myself, what thug I know got a divine diet? You know what I'm saying? Every thug I know live off honey buns, juices, and potato chips. I don't know none of them with no divine diet. When last time you seen the cow in the corner selling drugs with some hummus and lettuce? It's something about that divine diet. It helps change the mind. What Elder Ben Amin called the nutrition room. He said that's the most important room in the house. And you bring nutrition to your family. It aids the body, it aids the mind, causes you to think clearly. The Almighty know what He's doing. That's why He said, man should not live by bread alone. But what that means, you need bread to live though. But it's very interesting when you find out that bread you consume, it forms in that mind and engraft in that mind that word of God, that other part you need to live off of. It's that balance. So, notice with this Halloween business, besides the fact that they give the children poison, it's little drugs. I remember being on them drugs. Say, as a drug addict, you have to admit that you was an addict, don't you? That's right, I'm a recovering addict. I am a recovering addict. I act a fool if I didn't get enough sugar in my system. I would act a fool. Sister D, you know all about it. We've been together 20 years. She know all about that.
Hallelujah.
And what else can an addict? An addict can go ahead and confess. That's what they say. in addiction. You got to confess your faults. You got to let it out. I know I was wrong.
Hallelujah.
I know I ain't get my sugar for the day and how I treated my wife and kids. I know that.
Answer to prayer.
You understand? I understand.
You are not alone, brother.
You know, I was worse off. The man had some Jack Daniels might slow you down a little bit, but before you got that rush, wow, act the fool. Uppers, man. That's why you get kids candy all of a sudden. They hopping off the stairs. They swinging on railings. We got to realize what we're dealing with. We deal with that in God willing in classes to come. But finish reading that for me about this Halloween business.
Halloween or Hallow Even.
They used to call it Hallow Eve. Or Hallow Even, they used to call it.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
The evening of October 31st.
Yes.
For young people, a time for gaiety and pranks, a night to play at being witches, ghosts, and fairies.
Night to be so-called witches, ghosts, and fairies. Continue.
That evening is so called because it is the eve of the Christian festival of All Saints.
Wait a minute, it was the eve of the what festival?
The Christian festival.
Now I wonder what Christians they talking about. Because we know Paul and they never did nothing. Anybody ever read anything in the Bible about All Hallows Eve? You ever hear Jesus ever talk about it? So what Christians they talking about? What else? The eve of the Christians, All Hallows Eve.
The name means Holy Eve.
It means Holy Eve.
A time originally set apart to honor the memory of all saints.
Yes.
The building of bonfires, cracking of nuts, bobbing for apples, floating in tubs of water, and telling of fortunes and ghost stories, which are now Halloween's customs,
yes,
are all relics of paganism.
They're all relics of Christianity.
All relics of paganism.
See something wrong. Have the nation changed their gods, which are in fact no gods? You ain't got the people doing this today? Bobbing for apples in the bottom of churches. Yeah, I seen it growing up. What else you got there? We won't spend much time on that.
About 13 centuries ago, pagans celebrated November 1st as All Spirits Day, when spirits, both good and evil...
November 1st they did it?
Mm-hmm.
Read that from the top again so we can catch that.
About 13 centuries ago...
About 1,300 years ago.
Pagans celebrated November 1st as All Spirits Day.
Yes.
When spirits, both good and evil, were believed to be on earth. The Druid also celebrated their harvest festival about the same time.
Go ahead.
And many strange ceremonies were performed. Even after the pagans adopted Christianity.
Even after the pagans adopted Christianity.
They still observed many of their old customs.
They still observed, the pagans. Mm-hmm. They still observed many of their old customs. So we go back to Jeremiah 2 again, don't we? Have a nation change their gods, which are in fact no God. They haven't, have they? That's good out of Halloween. No. They call it Hallelujah. They trying to bring some reforms to them. Do you see they go through all that trouble? Hallelujah Day. Isn't that something? Man, that's cool. Hallelujah.
Just keep the feast.
That's it. That's all you got to do. But what they used to tell you, well, you can't take it away from the kids. Kids don't worry about it. Kids don't worry about you can't take Christmas away from your kids. How old your baby?
7 months.
You don't know nothing about no Christmas, do you? 7 months old. I can't take it away from the kids. You had it. Yeah, it messed me up. That's what you tell my mama. It messed me up.
You can't miss what you never had.
Yeah. You know, they won't miss what they never had and it won't mess them up. I'm telling you, Christmas messed me up. I'm telling you, them cartoons you have me watching, Bugs Bunny, Daffy Duck, that messed me up. It took some time to get up out of that. That messed me up. I had to go through reform. I had to go through, them years of studying the Bible, these years now, still fixing stuff in us that we adopted in all of this foolishness.
That's right. Yeah.
But you're right, they don't miss what they never had. Parents out there acting a fool and fighting. Remember they used to fight on the Cabbage Patch Doll? People go to the mall and get hurt. Now they still out there getting hurt. They get out there the night before, camping out because the store is packed because they got to get in and get everything. And that's not a burden.
Black Friday, that's what it is.
The that's the day of Thanksgiving, isn't it? So-called.
Yes. That's the biggest shopping day.
You see how they created another one on us? Black Friday. Now, who came up with Black Friday and marketed? that we think is something. Oh, Black Friday coming up. What is it?
It all ties back into capitalism. They
It all-
gotta make the money.
It all ties back into
They gotta
capital.
make the money.
The accounting division of capital, that's right, the accounting division of capital, you know, we gotta come up with something. You remember I told you about National Donut Day? It was last week.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was last week. I went to work, everybody was talking about it. National Donut Day, we missed it. Some of them.
Still got some addicts in here.
I don't know about the Paula Donuts, y'all made up for that.
Let the church.
Ain't no cake about no donuts.
You ain't nothing major. I can't say nothing about the donut.
We all are. We got some work to do.
I know Darryl, he had a bunch of them donuts hidden up there in the refrigerator. We all around here eating and sharing and carrying. I looked up top of that refrigerator, there's a greasy bag up there. you know the grease come through the paper bag? And what's that? I opened it up about four glazed donuts up in there.
It wasn't glazed. It
Well,
wasn't
but
glazed.
it was donuts.
It's donuts.
He told me to get it right. He said it wasn't glazed, get it right.
I ate the glaze.
It was apple fritters.
I ate the glaze.
It has some fruit in it.
I ate the glaze. Thank you,
Go
Mom.
ahead and testify.
I know about them apple fritters. You know, I know that. You see, I know the name of them, don't you? I don't know the name of donuts just by looking at them. I know all about that. But anyhow, they done created all of this new stuff for us to keep us occupied. All of this new stuff. Now, what comes after this Halloween business? The next month we got Thanksgiving. And I remember, what's wrong with Thanksgiving? You probably need to ask for what's right about it exactly. Well, you want to take everything away from us. I said, well, I knew how that was. I remember when I stopped eating pig, I didn't think there was nothing else to eat in the world. If that's the only thing in your world is swine flesh, you don't know nothing else, because that's all you grew up with. That's the only food you know exists. Bologna, lunch meat, hard head cheese, pork chops. That's the only thing you know exists. And even the stuff on the your Velveeta and what was it, Jiffy, everything else you ate,
Everything.
still has some remnants of swine in it. So when you say don't eat no more pig, you figure somebody trying to starve you. You feel they trying to do you harm. Because it's nothing else. But it is. It really is. So same thing when we talking about getting rid of this paganism, it's something else. And I tell you enjoy this more than anything else. So Thanksgiving, right? Mm-hmm. So I won't hold you. We're going to read a couple of captions. I won't read everything here about it because some of it we'll have, it'll give us a reason to do research. First thing I want to read about Thanksgiving. Anybody know where they say it started from? Them old pilgrims who came over here, them Protestants who came over here and landed on Plymouth Rock or something like that, right? That's what they say, right? You say what? Where did they get it from? Those are the questions we need to ask. They didn't make it up one day, sitting down with the Indians and decide to have Thanksgiving. They come up with something new. That didn't happen. Look what we got here. Thanksgiving. This is out of what? Holidays. I got it highlighted.
An American Holiday.
American Holidays by who?
Oh, I'm sorry. An American Holiday, An American History by Diana Carter Applebaum.
Okay. I want you to start at section 2. See, I got that circle 2?
Mm-hmm.
In fact, start there and then go to 2. Excuse me.
Landing at Plymouth in December 1620,
Uh-huh.
the Pilgrims faced winters without adequate food supply, sheltered from the elements only by such dwellings as they could build quickly.
In other words, when the Pilgrims landed here, fleeing from a feudal society in Europe, they came here and they really wasn't equipped for the new world. So they really wasn't all the way equipped. So let's see what happened with them.
Invitation to neighboring Indians to share in harvest feast in order to guarantee that the feast served to cement a peaceful relationship.
Invitations to Indians to serve what? Harvest feast. This is what the Pilgrims did.
In order to guarantee that the feast served to cement a peaceful relationship. The 3-day long meal.
The 3-day long meal. How many people know that Thanksgiving is normally a 3-day long meal? What day they normally give you off on? You see how they set it up? That Thursday, right? Yeah. Usually people take off that Friday, not that Saturday. right?
Mhm.
Cook, eat leftovers. It was a 3-day long meal a long time ago too, before you even knew about it. Before your mama was cooking the chitlins and the dressings and all that they cook today. It was a 3-day long meal before you even knew about it. Hog maws, that's right. I remember that. Pig guts and stomach. Go ahead and read.
Was punctuated by displays of the power on English muskets for the benefit of suitability impressed Indian guests.
So therefore, this 3-day long festival, the Pilgrims also, in this book, they're talking about how the Pilgrims also took the opportunity to show the Indians their strength and their muskets and their guns. That was for political reasons. Okay, so the Indians won't get too hostile. All right. Now, let me see the next one I got here. So it was a 3-day long festival. All right. Yeah, read that one.
Section 4. Preparing a feast for 90 Indians and 50 settlers must have taxed the strength of the 4 English women and 2 teenage girls on hand to do the cooking.
Wow. You know what? That's a microcosm of what happens today for people to supply the Thanksgiving goods. You think about all the workers who got to supply all them turkeys? Do we think about all of the workers who got, from the Black Friday and all of the season of shopping, the laborers and the workers who got to keep the stores open? We don't think about them. I say people, religious people say, well, we rest in Jesus. Well, what about the person serving you?
That's right.
We did a couple of meetings on the Saturday with, remember we went out to Askers. And I looked, that place is packed, isn't it? And we had a meeting here about other projects that we're working on here. But however, you had a couple of people there who will order a couple of things. And but I wonder if they just consider the labor involved, that because it's just a few people behind the counter and they ripping and running while we rest in Jesus. So it's sort of relation showing you how even back then they're showing you the relation how the labor which is behind such festivities, which we ought to consider if we are brother keepers. We have to bring this to our mind. But continue to read that.
13 Pilgrim women had been buried during that terrible first winter. They worked with the resources at hand, and although they successfully fed the hungry men, the feast bore little resemblance to the modern Thanksgiving dinner.
The feast bore little resemblance that they had back then to the modern Thanksgiving dinner. Yes, sir.
9 little girls and 15 boys were in the company, and they or some of the hunters may have gathered other wild fruits or nuts.
They gathered fruits and nuts.
Oysters, clams, and fish rounded out the abundant, but far from the Epicurean feast that the celebrators would have been more likely to call a harvest home than a Thanksgiving celebration.
You said these celebrants would more likely call this a what?
A harvest home.
Anybody ever hear of harvest home? Harvest home. Let's go and find out what this is. They would have more likely called this a harvest home than a Thanksgiving dinner, right? I don't want that one. We won't work with that one. I want you to read that. Then this is, I should have Encyclopedia Britannica. Harvest home. So we'll know today what harvest home is. Encyclopedia Britannica. Is that? Yeah, Britannica. Go ahead. Volume what?
Volume 5.
All right. What we got?
1980. Harvest home.
Harvest home.
Also called ingathering.
It was also called ingathering.
Traditional English harvest festival.
Traditional English harvest festival. Go ahead.
Celebrated from antiquity and surviving to modern times.
It was celebrated in antiquity and it survived unto modern times. Harvest home.
In isolated regions.
In isolated regions. Go ahead.
Participants celebrate the last day of the harvest by singing, shouting, and decorating the village with boughs.
Go ahead.
The celiac, or the last sheaf of corn, which represented the spirit of the field, is made into a harvest doll and drenched with water as a rain charm.
All right, so people say, well, we got harvest home, we got this harvest doll. Antiquity. People did it a long time ago, some still do it today. Who's familiar with the Macy's Day Parade? During November, Thanksgiving. You familiar with the Queen of the Harvest there? The balloon, the blower, the Queen of the Harvest. Now notice, they got a harvest doll made here for Harvest Home. Now we got Harvest Home and Thanksgiving. We got a Queen of the Harvest, which they have in Thanksgiving. And we also have a harvest dial, which is found in a harvest home celebration. Did you finish that for me?
This sheaf is saved until the spring planting. The ancient festivals also included the symbolic murder of the grain spirit as well as rites for expelling the devil.
And we won't get into that part today. 6. Harvest home. This is out of what?
Thanksgiving, American holiday, same thing.
Yes. Harvest home. Now they got a harvest dial. People say, but Jude, why are you going through this? Because I want you to know it. You just won't say Thanksgiving, pagan. I want you to understand. Nations have not changed their God. What else here we got about harvest home?
This is in Thanksgiving, an American holiday, in American history by Miss Applebaum.
Go ahead.
Pages 19 through 21.
And remember what Paul said. The things in which the nations sacrifice, they sacrifice to devils. Are we reading about the nations today?
That's right. Harvest home.
Uh-huh.
New Englanders came from Old England, where the harvest home, one of the grandparents of Thanksgiving, was celebrated.
Wait a minute. Harvest home is what?
One of the grandparents of Thanksgiving.
The harvest home is one of the grandparents of Thanksgiving. Harvest dial, harvest home, queen of the harvest you have in Thanksgiving, and we also now we tying this Thanksgiving in with the harvest home. Finish reading that for me.
The harvest home was a holiday on which the villagers joined together to bring together the last loads of grain from the field and share a merry feast when the work was done.
Uh-huh.
English villagers followed local harvest customs.
The nations. English villagers followed local harvest customs.
Some dressed a maiden in white to ride atop a loaded cart.
Yes.
As queen of the harvest.
As queen of the harvest. And you have her in every Thanksgiving Day parade. Go ahead.
Others fashioned a figure from the grain itself to be robbed in a white gown and set in the center of the circle of rejoicing farmers.
Now what we read up there, the next one up there, up top.
Harvest queen.
And this is out of the Old English Dictionary of Oxford.
Mm-hmm. Pages 108 to 109.
Now, because they dressed up a doll called the Harvest Queen. Go ahead and read.
A name given to Ceres.
Ceres. Anybody know what Ceres is? You'll find her in the Bible in the Ashtoreth. You'll find her also in the Bible in the book of Ephesians when Paul talked about great is who? Diana. Ceres was Diana. Ceres was Ashtoreth. This harvest dial that they made for the harvest festival was a name given to Ceres, or the Queen of Heaven, or the Harvest Queen. Ceres is the Queen of Heaven. So that dial and that big balloon of that Harvest Queen every Thanksgiving, so-called, did you know that is a direct descent from Ceres or Ashtoreth? You read in the book of Judges, the God of Israel was so furious that the children of Israel decided to worship Ashtoreth that he promised to remove them out the land. How is it that Ashtoreth survive unto this day? Because the nation have not changed their God, which are yet no God. They haven't changed. And you know what? Why do we celebrate all of these customs? Because we chose to align ourselves after the government of this world. People say, well, what's wrong with that? Well, I recall reading in the Bible where Satan gave these kingdoms his power and his seat and great authority. And we don't want to make that bridge, do we? We don't want to admit that the world we see today, we can say it's evil, we can say it's corrupt, but we don't want to say, well, you know what, this is the dominion of Satan. And what we have done, we have given ourselves over to the government of Satan. And all of the festivals and devils, because remember what Paul said in Corinthians? He said, look, but I say that the things which the Gentiles sacrifice, they sacrifice to devils and not to God. And I would not that you should have fellowship with devils. So we're going right back to Satan. Mm-hmm. All Hallows Eve, Thanksgiving, Janus, that all come from the worship and the doctrines of devils. And you know how it presents itself, all innocent like. See, I seem harsh saying something like that. Let's go to Jeremiah chapter 10. Man, it's just Thanksgiving, though. You go
going too far with. Somebody left something on our YouTube page about that. Mad at us. Oh, I don't know why I got to take it that far. Why y'all take it so far? Why y'all don't take it far enough? Jeremiah chapter 10, let's start reading at verse 1.
Jeremiah chapter 10. Hear ye the word which the Lord speaketh unto you, O house of Israel.
Listen to the word in which the God of Israel speaking unto you, O house of Israel. Go ahead.
Verse 2. Thus saith the Lord, learn not the ways of the heathen.
Wait a minute. He said what?
Learn not the ways of the heathen.
Anybody know what heathen means? Nations. Learn not the ways of the nations. Isn't that what Moses was trying to convey to us way back in Deuteronomy? I want you to tear down their altars. I want you to get rid of all of their temples. I don't want you to inquire how they serve their gods. Because in so many words he was saying, learn not the ways of the heathen, right?
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that the same thing Paul was saying? I don't want you to have fellowship with devils. It's the same argument. So Jeremiah is saying, learn not the way of the heathen. Why not? Go ahead.
And be not dismayed at the signs of heaven, for the heathen are dismayed at them.
Don't be dismayed at the signs of heaven either. Don't marvel at it. The heathen are dismayed at it.
Verse 3. For the customs of the people are vain.
Wait a minute. Now the customs of the people are useless. All of them trees that they're going to cut down in December to bring them into your house, just to throw them out of your front yard in a couple of weeks at the end of December is useless. All of the A's you're going to get, you're going to color and send kids out to try to find them is useless. Useless knowledge. And then we wonder why we're in a position we're in. Why the children dying? Why the earth all messed up? Why our food bad? Because all of the knowledge and stuff we give ourselves to is useless. That when we learn the ways of God, don't you know that God teaches us the importance of the ecosystem? Don't you know God teaches us the importance? What was the first thing in Genesis? To dress and keep the earth. What? That's one of the first laws. But we're not even in contact with that no more. We are detached from the earth. The earth is not even important to us no more. We don't know the importance of the trees. We don't know the importance of the bees. We don't regard none of it. That's why we'll kill the grass. I seen one guy. He said, you know what? He was making a beehive and he was using some chemical. And I was watching. He was showing it to me a couple of days ago. And he was, to make it waterproof. He said, next time I'm gonna do it on the grass because I don't want it to mess up the concrete. Because he had fresh new driveway. And I'm thinking to myself, he would rather sacrifice the grass with this chemical than he would his new concrete. See, that's how bad it is. That's how bad people are. Mother, Sister Deidre told me that there was a swarm of bees on my mother's street. What was the first thing they go do? Get the spray. Do you know that your life is tied into the bee's life? You don't even know that because we've been detached from the earth. Everything God made, we are here to complement and help one another. Everything he made, all the way down to the lowest insect. That's why you ever see them people on camera and they see the shark swimming around. They always got the little fish on top of the shark. Or you see the big old beast and you may see the lion laying down in the field. You got the little birds pecking at him. Everything serves its purpose. The lion not mess with that bird, is he? He's sitting down there laying, let that bird peck all of the tick and everything else off of him. Everything works together.
The elders say that when the animals and the insects are out of order, it means we're out of order.
Then we're out of order. That's what it says.
That's our sign.
That's our sign. That is our sign. And the book said they all out of order. It's our fault. We don't know no better because we haven't been taught. But you know what? Ignorance is no excuse. He done sent the prophets and he done sent these books. Next time he makes his appearance, when a divine change come in this world, when there's a divine intervention, now it's time to pay. When you read your Bible, he talks about he's going to send his anger without mixture. You know what he's talking about? It's not mixed with what? Mercy. Time to pay. It's time to pay. Go ahead and finish reading that. He said, look, the customs of the people are vain.
For one cutteth a tree out of the forest.
Go ahead.
The work of the hand of the workman with the axe.
Now, this isn't necessarily talking about a Christmas tree. Okay? He's not talking about a Christmas tree. He's talking about something more than that. What else they do? They're going to cut the tree out of the forest, and what else they going to do with it?
Verse 4. They deck it with silver and with gold. They fasten it with nails and with hammers, that it move not.
He's talking about every idol in existence. Isn't that what they had to do to make the idol a Dagon? They had to chop the tree out of the forest, right? Then after they chopped the tree out of the forest, they probably used the stump. They had to carve the stump down to a man figure, right? After they carved the stump down to a man figure, which they called Dagon or the Lord ruler, what did they do? They decorated with what? Silver and gold. They covered it with silver and gold. And then when they finished making the statue of Dagon, what did they do with it? They set it up on a mantle. So he said they set it up right and it moves not. So when we read Jeremiah 10, Jeremiah isn't really making an argument per se of a Christmas tree. You can say the Christmas tree in there because you do somewhat of the same, but this is what they did to create every idol. Every idol that's made. They decorate with silver and gold, and they fasten it with nails and with hammers that it move not, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Let's continue to read this.
Verse 5. They are upright as the palm tree.
They're upright as the palm tree. In other words, when you finish the statue of Dagon, just like you would do any other statue, it's sitting upright like a palm tree. It's not laying down. Sitting upright. Go ahead.
But speak not.
But they don't speak.
They must needs be born because they cannot go.
I want to bring something out here. They cannot go. They don't have any life in them. Continue to read.
Be not afraid of them, for they cannot do evil, neither also is it in them to do good.
Now, why would you be afraid of them, though? Why would you fear the statues of Dagon? Why would you fear the statues of Baal? He's going to explain. Now, he said, look, don't be afraid of them because they cannot do evil. Neither also is it in them to do any good. Now what we have a counter doctrine telling you that these gods can do nothing. I mean, Paul said idol is nothing. But what's behind the idol is demons, correct? But why would you believe that they can do any good or evil? Notice what you say next.
Verse 6. For as much as there is none like unto thee, O Lord, thou art great, and thy name is great.
There's none like unto the God of Israel, because he's alive. These idols are nothing, but they are afraid of them per se. Continue to read.
Verse 7. Who would not fear thee, O King of nations?
Who would not fear you? Don't fear these idols, but who would not fear the God of the nations? Go ahead.
For to thee doth it appertain, for as much as among all the wise men of the nations,
as much as among all the wise men of the nations,
and in all their kingdoms, there is none like unto thee.
Do you see the comparison he's sort of making? I'm getting down to this point. The next verse.
Verse 8. But they are altogether brutish and foolish.
But the stocks of wood and the idols of wood are altogether brutish and foolish. And what?
The stock is a doctrine of vanity.
That's the part. What is the doctrine of the stock? He said the stock is a doctrine of vanity. That's why he said, well, why are the people afraid of them? Because the doctrine of the stocks have given them teachings to cause the people to be afraid. And he said, how is it that all of these wise men and all of these nations, they're going to have a doctrine and teachings of these stocks, but there's none like you, the God of heaven who made everything. What does this say about the wise men of the nations? Why is it that the God who is real, men don't know about him? And all of the superstitions, the stocks, and the doctrines of the stocks are readily known to us. We could tell you about the latest idol. We could tell you about all of it. We could tell about the television. We could tell you about everything made. We could tell you about the dollar. Where do dollars come from? They come from the stock of a tree. And we'd kill over those. And they got the president of all, they got the images of all of their gods on their images from the stock of the dollar. Well, you know, the images of the gods. And some of the images of the gods are carved into mountains, aren't they? Mm-hmm. What is that? Mount what? Rushmore? Mm-hmm. Statues of the gods. They haven't changed nothing. Only thing is our perceptions. Our perceptions are out of whack. He said the stock is a doctrine of vanities. Now notice this in Habakkuk chapter 2. And we got one more scripture after this. And while he's going to Habakkuk 2, I'm going to read you a little something of the last month of the year. That's December. Everybody can't wait for December. And now I'm going to pass this around to the people so they can see this after I read this. I want you to look at our brother who suffered from his custom. He's a representation of all others. Habakkuk 2 and 18, notice.
Habakkuk chapter 2, verse 18.
That there is a teaching behind all of this superstition. When you get it, go ahead and read it.
What profiteth the graven image?
What profiteth the graven image?
That the maker thereof hath graven it. The molten image and a teacher of lies.
What profiteth the molten image? And what accompanies the molten image? A what? A teacher of lies. This is showing us the doctrine of the stock of vanity. And you online on Periscope, you probably can see it. Look at that. I would drop it, wouldn't I? Pick it up for me, boy. Bring it over here. Bring it to me. Thank you. You might can see this on Periscope. You see that man there on Periscope? I want you to get a visual of him. He is a victim of the customs of the heathen. This man right here. A victim of the custom of the heathen. That's good. So now they got it. That's good. Okay. Thank you. And I'm going to pass it around so other people can see it. In fact, I can pass it now. I'll just read it after he wants to come back to me. Notice him. Look at him. In fact, we got another one here too. I'm going to show you this one. This is the workshop. This is the workshop that they're working in to fulfill the doctrines of the customs of the heathen. Now, out of this book, this happened, this book was on sale. It was in line when I was going through Wegmans by Time Life Books, Christmas Around the World. You finished that, Habakkuk?
No, I got it. Let me finish the rest of 18.
Yeah, read that. Finish that.
That the maker of his works trusteth therein to make dumb idols.
The maker of his works trusteth therein to make dumb idols. Notice what the God of Israel said in the next verse.
Verse 19. Woe unto him that saith to the wood, awake, to the dumb stone, arise. It shall teach.
Woe unto you that think that this stone or this wood going to rise up and teach you some knowledge.
Behold, it is laid over with gold and silver.
See, that's what they did with the stock of the wood. They laid it over with gold and silver. And what else?
And there is no breath at all in the midst of it.
And there is no life in it. None. But it is in comparison to the God of Israel where there is life. That's why he said in the next verse, but the Lord is holy, or in his holy temple. Let all earth keep silence before him. He's comparing him to a doctrine and teachers and lies and useless knowledges. Now, Christmas around the world. It says here, millions who celebrate the birth of Jesus just view that event as the heart and soul of Christmas. Yet many of the trappings and traditions that now accrue to the holiday, adorning it prettily like ornaments on a tree, predate the nativity by as much as 2,000 years. Bright fires, gift-giving, parades, roving carolers, what they call it, they sing the Christmas carols or whatever, and 12-day festivals were hallmarks of other ancient end-of-the-year observances and celebrations. Over time, they all became part of the grand and growing pageant that is Christmas. Now, I'm not going to read this today. If you want to look at it, we have teaching when we get more on Christmas. I just want to bring it a couple of points out today. It says here also on page 8, the Romans too celebrated what they call the birthday of the unconquerable Son. With one solemn day after Saturnalia, the date set aside was, guess what? December 25th. So when Rome celebrated the birth of the unconquerable Son, the date they set aside was December 25th. Is that a coincidence? I want to get right into the history here. You finish that in Habakkuk, we're going to go to our last text, Jeremiah. To celebrate Christmas. Ancient pagans, festivals. Y'all finish with that? Y'all didn't see it yet? Okay. Yeah, let me see it. I'll give it back to you. Now, this is an article that was sent to me. It's called Santa's Real Workshop, the town in China that makes the world's Christmas decorations. In fact, I'm sorry. Y'all can look at it because I don't have anything underlined now. So you can pass it back to them so they can see it. Read that for me, brother. The underline. Notice this.
2 men produce 5,000 red snowflakes a day and get paid around 300 pounds a month.
Thank you. Wait a minute. He said 2 men do what?
2 men produce 5,000 red snowflakes a day and get paid around 300 pounds a month.
300 pounds is pretty much the British equivalent, or British dollars, right? That's about 300 bucks. 300 bucks a month. And they make how many? 5,000 red snowflakes a day. Go ahead and read.
The complex was declared by the UN to be the largest small commodity wholesale market in the world.
This complex, where you're looking at, where that man worked, it was considered by the UN to be what?
Largest small commodity wholesale market in the world.
The largest commodity wholesale market in the world. Go ahead, continue.
And the scale of the operation necessitates a kind of urban plan, with this festival of commerce organized into 5 different districts. District 2 is where Christmas can be found.
District 2 is where Christmas can be found. In these districts of these commodity shops, and you have these guys making these snowflakes, okay? Notice this. I'm missing page 2. But read this one. Wei. This is one of the names of the workers. I believe that's the name of the man you're looking at. W is Korean or Asian. His name is Wei.
Wei gets through at least 10 face masks each day.
Wait a minute. How many face masks Wei go through?
10 face masks each day.
He go through 10 face masks each day. Go ahead.
Trying not to breathe in the cloud of red dust.
You see that? You see the face mask on him? He's trying not to bring in the cloud of red dust. Making all these snowflakes. Making all of these stockings. Making all these gifts that the people are going to be merry about and pass to one another here in America. His life is in danger. And throw out the next week. Finish reading that. This was happening behind the scenes, as they said in this article. This is Santa's Real Workshop. Go ahead and read.
Maybe it's like Chinese New Year for foreigners, says 19-year-old Wei.
Wei, 19 years old.
Together with his father,
he
works long days in the red splattered lair, taking polystyrene snowflakes, dipping them in a bath of glue, then putting them in a powder-coated machine.
So you got the polystyrene, which is a chemical made, which the snowflake itself is made out of. We're not even looking at the one who actually make the snowflake. Right now, we're looking at the ones.
Very poisonous, brother Jude.
Say it again.
Polystyrene. It's very poisonous.
Very poisonous.
It's a kind of plastic, very poisonous polystyrene.
Polystyrene is very poisonous, the sister saying here.
Oh, that's terrible.
And it's a type of plastic. Very poisonous.
Dipping them in a bath of glue,
Then he's dipping them in a chemical compound of glue. Go ahead.
then putting them in a powder-coated machine until they turn red, and making 5,000 of the things every day.
5,000. You see what he's being exposed to? You see that? 19 years old. Exposed to these chemicals. You don't know about this stuff. That's why we look over in Asia, because before they used to test they used to test the atomic bombs here. Look up Dirty Harry, you don't believe. I look at this encyclopedia. It's interesting stuff in there. I ran across Dirty Harry. Now, Dirty Harry was the first atomic bomb that they used to test here in America, and they did it in the Midwest. And they had soldiers there to see the effects of it. In fact, they said the blast was so hot there that the beach or the sand part where they were, I believe it turned into glass, I think. It was just so hot. But what happened, the backdraft of the blast, the chemical cloud, they call that Dirty Harry. And it blew, I believe we were going towards Nebraska, Kentucky, and everything. And within a generation, they started having all these birth defects. The people protested against the testing of this chemical warfare. And you know where they took their testing to? South
Pacific Ocean, the islands.
The Pacific Ocean and the islands. Anybody ever see what's being produced out of there? I just want to show you all this just in case you didn't. Look at this. You see this here? You see them two-headed snakes? Look at this here. Look at the Asians here. The babies born together. You always heard of them Siamese twins. We always normally see them Siamese twins happening at somewhere in Asia, don't you? This is from the biochemical warfare. You see what's happening to their children? That's what they do in their chemical testing. To protect our liberties. It's something they're not telling us. Now, he been exposed to all of these chemicals for the Christmas celebration, the old pagan celebration. And we'll show you it was the same thing. That the people went through the same arduous work to produce for the gods back then. Same thing. Finish reading that for me.
And they both get through at least 10 face masks per day.
Him and his daddy go through about 10 face masks per day.
Trying not to breathe in the dust.
And they try not to breathe in the chemical dust.
Packaged up in plastic bags.
Y'all want to see it? I'll show you here on YouTube again. Here it is. Here he's in his workshop right there. See him with the mask on? Pass that around. You can look at him with his mask on. This is what's behind the scenes in this paganism we celebrate. Not just for superstition's sake. It's a lot of reasons we're not supposed to be dealing with this stuff here. What is our responsibility to our people there? Do we have any responsibility to them? If we're supposed to be their keeper? Go ahead and finish.
Packaged up in plastic bags, their gleaming red snowflakes hang alongside a wealth of other festive paraphernalia across town in Yiwu International Trade Market, aka China Commodity City. There are whole streets devoted to artificial flowers and inflatable toys.
There are whole streets they have in this commodity district that are dedicated to all of these toys.
Then come umbrellas, plastic buckets, and clocks. It is multi-story monument to global consumption.
It is a what?
Heavy multi-story monument to global consumption.
This whole district is basically designed for global what?
Consumption.
And I'm going to read this little part here. According to Kai Qinglang, vice chairman of the Yiwu Christmas Products Industry, which you just finished reading about, Christmas Product Industry Association, domestic appetite is on the rise as China embraces the annual festival of Mammon. That's what he called it. Santa Claus, says The Economist, is now better known to most Chinese than Jesus. In fact, in the article, when you read the whole thing, it teaches you that the Chinese ain't never heard it. They didn't even really hear this Christmas thing. But they out there laboring and working. So let's go now to our last text to bring forth Christmas. They labor and work and bring forth Thanksgiving. They labor and work and bring forth all these holidays under this government. And we got a nerve to call the government a god of burden. Jeremiah 16, this is our last one. Verses 19 and 21.
Jeremiah chapter 16, verses 19. O Lord, my strength and my
fortress.
fortress.
O Lord, my strength and my fortress. Go ahead.
My refuge in the day of affliction. The Gentiles shall come unto thee from the ends of the earth.
The day gonna come when a nation shall come to thee from the ends of the earth.
And shall say, surely our fathers have inherited lies, vanity in things wherein there is no profit.
He said the nation shall come and say what to God?
Surely our fathers have inherited lies.
For sure. Our fathers have what? Inherited lies. And what?
Vanity.
And vanity.
And things wherein there is no profit.
And things wherein there is no profit. What verse is that?
That was the end of verse 19.
You see what they're going to say? They're going to come and confess everything that they got the people dealing with now from ages on till today is vanity and lies. I just want to present some of these things to you today so you can understand when we're dealing with the Holy Scriptures, when we're dealing with the festivals, I want you to have the right perception that God's law is true and what man has presented is false. So we can stand and face Jerusalem. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, in earth, as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us of our debts, as we forgive our debtors. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. In Christ Jesus, the Lamb of God, name we ask and pray. Amen. Hallelujah. 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 B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach.
Amen. We do have a few announcements, everyone. So be here with me. Shalom. It's good to see you all on Skype. It's good to see everyone here today. I want to try to make this quick so we can move on with our day. My list out here.
So we thank everyone for tuning in on the Periscope. Most High willing, I'll be doing it more. And broadcasting more of our discussions on Periscope. So with that, yes, feast service is tomorrow.
Yeah, we at 12 for the
class. They said class will start at 1, right?
At 12.
12. Everybody doing it early?
If that, who's the teacher?
What time class?
Is that good? Is that what your teacher?
It's fine. I just want to review.
12 o'clock,
Okay, a lot going through the week. Sometimes I forget what y'all done come up with. Class time at 12 o'clock Eastern time.
I'm sorry.
Peace and blessings to you, sisters. So we're going to close it out.
Oh, the Periscope.
Mm-hmm.